to baseball. Pennant races are heating up, and I tell you, Mets fans get a little bit of a scare. Yankees fans don't know what's going on with their team and their offense. We'll break it down with a great writer who covers baseball for USA Today, Steve Gardner, kind enough to join us as he does every week. How are you, Steve?
Doing good, Reg. How about you?
I'm doing real well, and I appreciate Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, after last night, I mean, the Yankees can't even get out of their own way against the Red Sox. But always good to talk to you. I just want to give the listening audience a quick update. Phil's still leading the Mets 2-0 in the sixth, and really a naked ballpark there. No attendance whatsoever. Let's stick with the Mets for a moment. And a little bit of a scare there with Cespedes. Looks like he'll be okay. I look at this team as they get set for their playoff run. They'll take on the Dodgers, and I think the offense is going to be fine. But the more I watch them, if I'm a Met fan, I'm a little more worried about their lefties. These guys seem to have real issues getting guys out. I mean, any thought there?
Well, I mean, if that's your one concern is your left-handed relief pitchers, that's not a bad place to be going into the playoffs, especially if Cespedes is okay. But, yeah, I mean, everybody's got something that concerns them, and I don't know that it's going to be huge. Maybe it will end up to be, but really, I think the Mets starting pitching, if they can take them, they'll go as far as the starting pitching will take them. How about that?
Okay.
And so that's what I think about the Mets, especially if Cespedes is okay. That's huge too.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to work in Cologne or Nice. I mean, I don't know how much confidence you have in Nice right now, and Cologne gave you a ton of stuff in the beginning of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how that roster, at least their starting rotation, sets up. I think it's great playing the Dodgers, though. Brings back shades of 88 and Greg Jeffries. And, of course, the Dodgers go on for their dramatic World Series win against the A's. Here's a team. We mentioned the Dodgers and Greinke and Kershaw. And, despite the fact that they've dropped 7 out of their last 10, how do you handicap the Dodgers? And how, if you were to give me one reason the Dodgers will make the World Series and one reason they won't, what would it be?
I think the X factor for the Dodgers, believe it or not, is Corey Seager. He's a guy that we haven't seen all season, but has been playing in the minor leagues and has been tearing that up, and then doing even better in the major leagues. I think he gives this team an added dimension. And you look at obviously Kershaw, Greinke at the top of the rotation. They're going to be there, and as you and I have talked in the past, I think this is the year that Kershaw shows that he's not a postseason failure, that he'll get the job done. But I like the way that if Seager comes in there, gives them a left-handed bat that is huge for them, and it gives them a lot more flexibility with the rest of their roster. I like the way that they have so many different guys that can fill in different places and can beat you in any number of ways. So I think for Mets fans, that's got to be a frightening first-round matchup.
Yeah, and you mentioned Seager, just 24 games played already, batting over .318, but gets on base. Will score runs, will get the hits, and he seems like he's going to be one of those players throughout his career that could be a doubles machine. Already has 8 in 24 games. Let's switch gears to the AL, and again, a couple minutes with Steve Gardner, USA Today. Does a great job covering baseball on a daily basis. When you look at the AL, I mean, look, again, good for baseball, for the Toronto Blue Jays to clinch the AL East. But then you look at the Yankees, they just need to just lock down one win. And, of course, Boston's giving them all types of fits. And even if it comes to a one-game playoff, I go back to something you said about a month ago. You look at the makeup of this team. This is not the makeup of a team that can make a deep run in a playoff, albeit they're getting so much out of Alex Rodriguez, which really, when you think about it, it is really just bizarre after what's transpired over the last couple of years with A-Rod. But he's turned back the clock a little bit, but you're not always going to be able to just rely on his bat.
No, and I think he's showing a little bit of that strain. He's not been the hitter that he was, certainly in the first half, over the second half. In the last month, he's hitting .231. Does have some home runs, but that's basically it. I liken him a little bit to Albert Pujols. Is a shell of a guy that we once have seen, but can make you pay for a mistake. And I think that's what will be fun to watch in the postseason is, when those opportunities come up, can A-Rod rise to the occasion? If the Angels get in, can Albert Pujols rise to the occasion? And the Yankees have been leaning on him, and Carlos Beltran actually has been the guy
Huge.
that's been carrying them in the second half of the season. So Beltran, we know what he's done in the postseason many times before, so it should not be a shock if he has a great postseason.
Yeah, a lot of teams probably don't want to see the Angels get in, especially with Pujols, as you mentioned, but of course Trout. How about the Texas Rangers? And I want to first ask you about Cole Hamels. People were just ripping him the other day on social media with his last outing. I think he gave up 6 earned and 6 or 7 runs, albeit he got the decision, but he's still 6-1. I mean, here's a guy you can count on in the postseason. Is there any concern with the Rangers and Cole Hamels?
None that I can see. I mean, he's been giving them innings. He's been
everything,
striking out guys. He's been solid. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's only lost once for them, and granted, pitcher wins and losses don't tell the whole story. But when you're going deep into games, you're giving yourself a chance to get that win. And when you've got some offense behind you, and the Rangers certainly have had one of the better offenses going down the stretch, that's a deadly combination. And I think Cole Hamels is the number one starter that the Rangers needed, and I can see him certainly. If the Rangers get into that one-game playoff, or even if they win the division, that's huge to have him and be able to have him go twice in a division series.
Yeah, you mentioned the Rangers 86-72 atop the West by 2.5 games on Houston, 3 ahead of the aforementioned Angels. It's a pretty important 4-game set. You got the Astros idle until they open a 3-game series against Arizona. You mentioned Cole Hamels, and you also mentioned the offense. I mean, you look at Beltre, 416, 4 homers, 24 RBI over the past 19 games. I mean, that's, you can judge a guy's impact, like you alluded to, by numbers, but sometimes stats don't always tell the whole story. But he's provided, he's just been an underrated player throughout the course of his career, and that's certainly a big-time bat that they're going to have in their lineup.
For sure, and of course, defensively, he's so good there. And another guy, too, Rich, that we haven't really talked about very much this season is Shin-Soo Choo, who got off to a horrible start, but over the second half of the season, since the All-Star break, I think he's hitting the 5th best batting average of anybody in Major League Baseball over that span. He's hitting home runs. He's doing it all for them, and put him up at the top of the order, and you've got a dangerous guy. We saw, a couple years ago when he was with the Reds and he had an OBP around 400 and was igniting that offense. He's doing the same thing for the Rangers right now down the stretch.
Last one for you, and I have to ask you this one. The whole Jonathan Papelbon and Harper situation. I alluded Papelbon, and maybe it's too rough, but I'm still going to stand by it. Here's a guy that, even though he has talent, he's a knucklehead, and I kind of equated him to Terrell Owens in the NFL, where you stick him on a team, and sometimes if the chemistry's not there, he's going to blow up the team. Now, with that being said, I actually have no problem with him carling out Harper, because I would venture to guess there are probably some players in the Nationals locker room, in the dugout, that were probably wishing somebody would come along and do something like that. Now, I don't advocate for choking the kid, a 22-year-old MVP candidate, NL MVP, your franchise player, but I can see where Papelbon was in the right in calling him out, and we knew this was kind of building up over the last several days as well, when Harper made the comments too that he thought he was going to get plunked because of Papelbon's actions. But I want to get your thoughts. What was your reaction and your contemporaries' reaction when you heard this story? Any shock or surprise there?
Well, with Papelbon, it's not a surprise because he's very an abrasive personality, and he gets on even his teammates' nerves. So you take a guy that was once an NL East division foe, and you put him in the middle of a team, and the team collapses. It's hard to embrace that guy into your clubhouse, first of all. Then Harper and Manny Machado are kind of tight, and so when Papelbon hits Machado, that spurred Harper to make some comments after the game. I'm sure that didn't sit well with Papelbon, and he was looking, I think, Papelbon was looking for an opportunity to get back at Harper. And when he didn't run it out, this is the guy who's your MVP in the National League. I don't think you can get on him for not playing hard when he's the guy that's carrying your team and nobody else is. So I think Papelbon was in the wrong there. Obviously, to go choking him, he was in the wrong there. I just think Papelbon may have signed his future away with the Washington Nationals. It's going to be very hard for him to get back into being a part of that team, and with Matt Williams being oblivious to everything that's going on, it's hard for him to get control back of that clubhouse and win the clubhouse over. I don't see how he can continue as manager of the Nationals.
Well, what about Rizzo? I mean, you look at what Lerner's got in front of him, and how do you not? Matt Williams was a great player. He's a horrible manager. He does not understand the intricacies of baseball on a daily basis. He doesn't. He's just and he doesn't get a read on his players. And then you look at Rizzo. Well, he's the guy that made the hire. I mean, you're looking at two areas where a team might need a GM and a manager next year. It looks like it's going to be the Washington Nationals.
I think that Rizzo does deserve some of the blame for the Papelbon acquisition, and he said, we did our due diligence, and he talked to Drew Storen, the former closer, before making the acquisition.
Sure.
Still, I think this is on Mike Rizzo. But that said, I think he has the full support of ownership. He's been there. He's done some good things with the Nationals, and we praised a lot of their moves in the offseason, getting Max Scherzer for one. So I think he's done some good things and has built up enough goodwill that he's probably going to stick around. But yeah, he made a big mistake, I think, with Papelbon. We can see that in retrospect. It probably could have seen that once it was made. It was kind of a panic move because they were looking at Chapman. They were looking at Craig Kimbrell as well. The price was too high. But, yeah, I think that the call on Matt Williams, manager of the year last year, don't think he really deserved that. And now we see what a good idea, a better idea of what kind of a manager Matt Williams is.
Got about a minute left. One more quickie to wrap it up. I want to stick with the Nationals for a moment because you just kind of piqued my interest with something. If you look at the numbers before the trade, this was a team that had a little momentum. They were leading the NL East. They were leading the Mets, and then everything imploded. I'm not going to equate everything to Papelbon at all, but I look at this franchise. They are just soft. They're not a mentally strong franchise, and they have so much talent. At the end of the day, is this a team that the next 3 or 5 years you're going to look at them and say, the Washington Nationals, so much talent, and the but is basically they're just not a strong character team?
I think part of that is the dugout and the clubhouse culture, and I think I really think a new manager can get that back. And you've got strong personnel. I mean, Harper, you've got the best player in the National League, and put him up there with Mike Trout as the best player in the game on your roster. You've got veterans. You've got great pitching. Now, whether they can keep Steven Strasburg there, they're going to lose several guys to free agency, so it's going to be another bit of a chemistry kind of thing where they bring in some new guys for important roles. But I think the talent is there. The ability to spend money on players is there, as we saw with Scherzer last year, and with Jordan Zimmerman's salary coming off the books and Denard Span's salary coming off the books, etc. Ian Desmond, the Nationals are prepared. I think are in a good position to be a club that can continue to win year in and year out, especially when you've got Harper as a building block. So no, I think the changing the clubhouse is the number one off-season priority for the Nationals. I think.
It usually is when teams start to implode year in and year out. All right, my friend, always great stuff. I know the next week or so is going to be really fun to watch. We'll talk next week, and enjoy the games.
Sounds great, Rich. Look forward to it.
All right, you got it. Appreciate it, pal. Steve Garner does a great job with USA Today. Great insight as always.